Okay, so Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar. We call it Beyond Meters, where you're going to learn more about energy performance measurements for buildings. Before we get to the topic, let me just give a quick introduction about Greener as a company. So we basically, make sure it's moving, yes. So we basically provide sustainability and energy efficiency services for nearly all types of buildings and facilities. Our services include green building consultancy, energy efficiency, energy auditing with implementation, solar energy, EPC services, solar thermal and solar PV. We also provide specialized services, commissioning services, including blower door testing, services that relates to sustainability and energy efficiency. We are partners with Schneider Electric as an integrator for EV charging stations in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. We also provide very specialized service that relates to wellness rooms, where we design and execute such rooms in workplaces. So all of the services are related to sustainability and energy efficiency, and would like to contribute to this market in the Saudi market. A quick idea about myself. My name is Mohammed Naeem. I'm the Business Development Manager at Greener by IHCC. I'm an electric engineer holding master degree in alternative energy technologies, certified energy manager, and certified measurement and verification professional by IEEE. And I'm, alhamdulillah, also lead accredited professional by US Green Building Council. Here's the agenda of today's presentation. So we're going to start with the introduction and fundamentals about the topic. And then we will get to the first Q&A and discussion session. And then we'll be presenting the three types of measurement protocols as per ASHRAE: basic, intermediate, and advanced. And then we'll wrap it up with the last Q&A and discussion session. So let's get started with some introduction and fundamentals. Let's start by understanding the difference between energy measurement and energy performance measurement. So energy measurement is basically nothing but kilowatt-hour readings, where the energy performance measurement is actually beyond that. It's actually answering the question, how good is this kilowatt-hour readings? And to answer such questions, you need to have a baseline to compare with. And there where the benchmarking will come to the picture, which is something we're gonna talk about later in this presentation. Let me put this in another way. Like if you do energy measurement for such building, you are basically providing the kilowatt hour per year for such a building measured by your energy meters. Now, based on this kilowatt hour per year, which is the annual energy consumption of this building, and comparing it with other similar building consumption, you can come up with a benchmark with evaluation for this building, and maybe you can come up with something like this for like building energy efficiency rating. You rate the building as B or C, A. It depends on the energy efficiency of the building. Energy performance measurement, I'm using this term here as per the ASHRAE literature, but it's good to know that there are like many other terms can be used interchangeably that has almost the same meaning. So you can call it energy performance evaluation, rating, benchmarking, grading, scoring, or labeling. So they are almost the same. I mean, they're all revolving around the same concept. Now, the question is, why energy performance measurement? Why should we do it for buildings? Now, you want to benchmark the energy consumption of your building, and accordingly, you set improvement targets for that building. So it goes with the saying that says like, if you cannot measure it, you cannot control it. So energy performance measurement is key for the energy performance improvement for that building. That's why it's very important to do it. And it's also prerequisite for carbon footprint calculations. that is needed, like for some sustainability reporting, for some regulations compliance sometimes. And it's also a tool for rating and certification systems, such as LEED, Energy Star, etc. And finally, it's also required for energy auditing and energy management system standards, like, for example, ISO 5001. Now, here are some of the applications of the energy performance evaluation. So your building project is actually one of the two. It's either a new construction project or existing building. Now, if the project is new construction, your energy performance evaluation will come in a form of like energy simulation. It can be a part of energy labeling program, carbon footprint calculations. For existing buildings, many other applications for that, actually including energy auditing, performance contract, lead O&M, and ARC platform. We're going to discuss in more details about the ARC platform today. Energy labeling program, sustainability reporting, etc. ASHRAE 105 standard is actually a very good, very important standard for energy performance measurement. It provides the concept, the methodology of the energy performance measurement. And the good thing about it also, it handles the new construction as well as the existing buildings. I found it interesting to give some, to provide some history highlights of the energy measurements in buildings. So it all started in 1960s, where more development of computerized energy calculation started. And then later in 1973, more development has been accelerated due to oil embargo, the well-known crisis. In 1978, the concept, the PRISM concept has been introduced, and it was limited only for residential buildings. And later in early 90s, more different methods have been proposed to calculate the baseline energy for buildings, and it was for commercial buildings, which was like more requested by them. And then in late 90s, modeling software started to be developed in much fast pace, in parallel with related ASHRAE research projects. I mean, ASHRAE, back then, they have done 3 main research projects. They were all dealing of quantifying the energy calculation, the savings in HVAC system. And it highly contributed to the modeling softwares we are seeing today, the common energy modeling softwares. For energy performance benchmarking, which is very important to know, like any kind of benchmarking, not only that for energy, any kind of benchmarking, it's either like external reference benchmark or self-reference benchmark. So in external reference benchmark, this is happening when we compare, when you compare your building to other similar buildings, after factoring out some of the variables like occupancy, operation, and some climate differences. So basically, you are comparing your building to other similar buildings to see how good you are. Now, the second type is self-reference. It's called self-reference benchmarking. And that is happening when you compare your building with your building over time. So the main purpose of this is to quantify the energy saving verification for any energy conservation measure, any ECM you have applied in the building. So for example, if last year you had like fluorescent lamps, and this year you replace it with LED. So you want to compare, you want to benchmark this year compared to the last year to quantify the energy saving you got from the LED replacement. So, well, now we'll stop. If anybody has any question to be right here, any discussion point, please feel free. And if you guys are okay, we can move on to the next session. Let's see. So we got the first question here, which is, okay, not related to the topic. It's more related to the business part. So somebody's asking, do you provide qualified as a lead provider? Yes, we provide lead consultancy. We are typically a US Green Building Council member, and yes, we provide this in the whole kingdom. So if you guys have any other question or somebody would raise his hand, let me check. Okay, we got another question here saying, how do you maintain data integrity measured energy consumption for EPCs, energy performance contracts? Okay, well, this question is kind of, it requires very detailed answer. And actually we are touching on this in the second part of the presentation. So I think it would be a good idea if we go to the second part, I explain that part. And then if you guys still have the same concern, we can raise the question again, just to manage the time. Yes, Mr. Sarfraj Khan, very valid point, and this is actually a point we're gonna raise it and discuss it today, that there is no really benchmarking records for Saudi or UAE. I mean, UAE, I have attended one of the conferences, the retrofit tech conference has been in Riyadh, and they were highlighting that they started that a company called Griffin, they started with Ittihad ISCO. So there is some movement, I mean, but in Saudi, yes, as far as I know, there is no clear path for that. I really wish somebody from the audience, if he can go ahead and let us know about the update. But yeah, we really need that. So let's see the Q&A. Okay, somebody is asking about the ASHRAE standards. Is it only dealing with HVAC or full building systems? Well, you know, ASHRAE, yes, it's mainly for HVAC system. That's their strength. But they have a lot of standards, a lot of guidelines for energy performance, for green building, high performance buildings. Yes, and today's topic, I mean, it was all based on the ASHRAE literature. And they have a very good guideline, and it's called Performance Measurement Protocols for Commercial Buildings. And it's a joint effort between ASHRAE and Green Building Council and another third organization. I missed the name now. So yeah, it's a good reference for that. Okay, I'm just gonna try to avoid the business related questions. If you guys wanna raise this later, please, you can, feel free, you're welcome to send it to info@greener. I mean, we'll just keep it to the topic now. That will be more beneficial, I believe. Yeah, again, same point, benchmarking. As far as I know, no benchmarking till now in Saudi Arabia. We're really looking forward for that. Yes, we're gonna touch a bit on IPMVP standard protocol. I mean, it's actually part of the discussion. But again, today we are talking about the broad topic, the broad subject, which is the energy performance measurement. And IPMVP is specialized for the measurement and verification for EPC contracts, etc. So it's a special case, but we're going to touch on it, yeah, a bit. So I think we are good. Let me check here. Okay. So I would say it will be okay. I have two more questions. I will get back to those. I mean, some of them are a little bit it needs like a detailed answer. So let me just move on now to the second part of the presentation, and we'll accommodate, inshallah, all the questions in the last Q&A session. Okay, so moving on to the measurement protocols as per ASHRAE. Sorry. Okay. So basically, ASHRAE, they broke down the protocol to 3 types: basic, intermediate, and advanced. Now, in the basic protocol, you will be evaluating the annual whole building energy use on annually or monthly basis with external reference benchmarking. So basically, you do it only for whole building energy use. You don't do it for major system and end users. And you do it annually or monthly. That means you don't need any submetering. So all what you do, you just use the bills records that's available for the building, and based on that you can do the performance measurement. And in the basic also only required external reference benchmarking. So you just benchmark yourself compared to other buildings. You don't need to do self-reference benchmarking. While in intermediate and advanced, you require both, like internal and external reference benchmarking. In the intermediate, it will cost more than basic because of the fact that you will be using submetering for sure, because it requires you to measure not only the whole energy building, also the whole building energy. It also requires you to measure major end users, major systems, HVAC, lighting, etc. And also the frequency of the measurement needs to be more, so monthly or weekly basis, so you can get more information, will have a better understanding about the energy consumption. Now in advanced, which is the highest cost of them all, because you would require more frequency for the measurement, less measurement intervals, and it requires much more detailed analysis, and typically it requires an energy consultant, a specialized energy consultant to perform it. Where the basic one, it can be done, by only the facility management team. That's why we would like really to encourage people in commercial building that they learn by themselves the basic protocol and they apply it by themselves. It's a good exercise they can do, and they can get some benefits out of it. It will give them let's say a quick idea about like how they perform, where they stand. Okay, so this is a comparison table where we are showing the differences between different protocols level of ASHRAE. So basically, whole building energy and cost, you are monitoring that in all of the protocols, but in different frequency, as you can see. In advanced, it can reach daily and hourly because you need to know more about the energy consumption. Monitoring the energy of major end users is only required in intermediate and advanced. In basic, you don't need to do that. And energy saving verification, again, it's required only intermediate and advanced. You didn't need to do it in the basic. And for the benchmarking model, you can do only external references in basic, whereas you need to do self and external, both reference benchmarking for both intermediate and advanced. Now, which buildings are really targeted by these protocols? Like in the basic, the majority of buildings are targeted, 60% or more. Okay, we're not talking about too small buildings or too small apartments. Maybe that's like not of interest. But we are talking about commercial buildings. They are paying considerable amount for energy. And it's really an easy exercise, almost free of charge. So we really encourage people to do it. Intermediate typically is targeted by buildings that is pursuing like LEED and EDGE certification, the green building certification, which is almost account for 10% of the number of buildings. Advanced, which is highly costly protocol level, it's there only for guaranteed saving contract, EPC, energy performance contract, or research projects. So it needs to be justifiable. That's why typically it's done for these applications, which consider like almost less than 1% of the stock building out there. Now, to be a little bit more practical, let's just go over the process to do the basic protocol. So basically we have 4 steps. The first step, you want to collect the data of the building, basic building characteristic, which is a standard form. We're going to share it now after this slide, developed by ASHRAE standard 105. And then you want to also collect data, but this time for energy and cost of the building. And then based on this energy data, you calculate what's called EUI and ECI, energy use index and energy cost index. And then based on these EUIs, you can go ahead and do the benchmarking and rating of the building. You understand how good the performance in terms of energy. Now, going over the process one by one. So collecting data, we were talking about basic building characteristic. This is again based on ASHRAE 105 standard. So for those who are interested, really you want to go ahead and read that standard to understand how to do this in a professional way. So basically, they are having the very basic information to be filled here, like location, built up area, primary year of construction. And then if you have a mixed use building where you have different types of building, it might be like half of your building offices and maybe half of them residential or whatever that. So you just assign the corresponding square meter for each part. And that would really be required for the benchmarking process, for the rating process as well. The second step is to collect data, but this time for energy and cost. Now, in energy and cost, also again, they are having another standard form, which is pretty straightforward. They have here like all types of energy sources. I mean, in our case in Saudi Arabia, maybe it's a little bit it's simpler than this. You just go ahead with the electricity purchase in kilowatt hour. You fill it out, you fill out the cost, corresponding cost for that. If you have also solar PV generated or solar thermal generated, also you want to mention it here. So you can subcontract it later on. You can subtract it later on to get the net energy in the bottom of this, in this form. Now, once you get the net energy, you start calculating what's called energy use index, EUI, which is pretty easy. It's nothing really but dividing the net annual energy use, the annual kilowatt hour for the building, divided by the square meter of the building, the built up area, only conditioned area. You don't want to add any unconditioned area as per the standard. So same thing goes for like for the energy cost index, but instead of net annual energy use, you just have the cost in dollar or a real, whatever currency applies here. Now, so based on these two, once you got them, then you are ready for the next step, which is the evaluation. The benchmarking and rating, it can be done in different ways. In today's presentation, I'm going to present 3 different methods that we tried and we know that it's applicable. So the first one is for those who are familiar, like especially HVAC designers and HVAC professionals. There's like a handbook called ASHRAE Application Handbook. That book, it has table 33P and 33A. It handles the AUI readings for a population of buildings for different applications, as you can see, office, mall, recreation, whatever that. So based on that, you compare the EUI of your specific application, you compare it and you know where you stand. So let's just take an example, the first line for the office application. If we got like, let's say, if you got the EUI in like 578, which is same exactly as the 15th percentile of that population, which means your building is average. Like you are not overusing, you are not saving. Now, let's say you got the AUI of 150, for example, which is even less than the 10th, which is like it's within the 10th percentile of the population, which means you are like having very efficient building, and you can consider yourself you're one one of those 10% buildings that they are the best in energy efficiency. Now, this is the first way. A quick note about this way: it's estimation. It's like, let's say it's something easy you can do. It's not that accurate because it's not really a living document. It might not be very relevant to your place as well, but it's a good and quick indicator for your building benchmark. Now, what we recommend, the other tools, okay, which is like a living tool, a living online tool platforms where different buildings are registered on there. You keep feeding those platforms with the data of your building, the energy consumption monthly wise, and the same software, it calculates the benchmark and it evaluates your building accordingly. So these are two good examples I want to share. So we'll go in more details in the next slide. So let's start with Energy Star Portfolio Manager. Maybe those who are familiar with LEED consultancy and LEED certification, they have an idea about this tool. Now, this tool is actually an online tool again. It has the databases for buildings where it uses these data in terms of energy, building characteristics. It uses for the benchmarking and rating purpose for those buildings, okay? So it's very friendly, very user-friendly, very easy to use. Only one limitation, that is only limited for USA and Canada buildings. So that's a challenge for us. Even though, I mean, you can have an account, you can create an account, create a building, but again, by the end of the day, it needs to be located in the USA or Canada. Now, the second platform, which is ARC, developed by US Green Building Council. It's basically a sustainability performance monitoring platform that shows the performance of buildings on monthly basis in terms of energy, water, waste, transportation, and human experience. So as you can see, it's actually broader, it has a broader scope than only energy performance measurement. We highly recommend this tool. We have used it, and we're going to show the example of using it. It's like, again, the only available tool of its kind. And yes, it requires more and more building information so it can improve the accuracy of the benchmarking and rating. But I mean, I believe they are in the right path. They are in the right track. It's, I mean, linked with the LEED certification, which is required by many buildings. So it's something, I mean, if you don't have, again, a local benchmarking database that you can use, I mean, such tool, it can be used, of course, and it will be a good alternative. Now, again, as shown here, ARC allows any project to measure improvements and benchmark against itself and against the projects around it. So again, this is the same concept: external reference benchmark and self-reference benchmark. Now now that we know the basic process of the protocol, let's just go over a case study, which is actually our head office in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. Now, back then, I mean, almost 4 years ago, we have done the energy audit. We collected the energy data, the bills, and it was for 2 years back. I mean, two years records. I mean, as per ASHRAE, 3 years is the recommended duration, but if you got 2 years, it's kind of acceptable, but 1 year is not acceptable at all. Now, we got this data, we analyzed it, we got the average consumption, and based on that, we calculated the EUI. I mean, we call it here energy use intensity. It's the same as energy use index. It's just other terminology. Now, we divided the annual energy consumption by the square meter of the building, and we got the EUI of 320. We did some effort. We tried to get like a range of good and bad EUI, and we came up with this chart you're seeing, where 150 EUI, we assumed it's an excellent EUI, and 450 is poor. Now the one that, while before the energy audit, before we did the ECMs, it was 320, which is like, it lies between the bad and average in the yellow range here. After we proposed to the building owner that if they follow all ECMs we proposed, they can reach 179 EUI, which is very near to the excellent. Okay, it just happened that they followed many of the ECMs, but not all of them. So I remember the last year the EUI was reaching 226, which is like a good achievement. I mean, we have moved from the yellow space, which is bad, to average. We use from average to good. Yeah, so again, EUI, it was a good benchmark. It let us know how much space of improvement we can go ahead with. Yeah. Now, after that, we started applying the ARC platform we just discussed. Now, we actually, we started almost 1 year back. And alhamdulillah, even US Green Building Council, they nominated our building as an ARC Experience Center in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. So we used the ARC platform. We started evaluating the performance of our head office, and that's the score we generated for 6 months here. I mean, it's not updated. It should be all month. But again, it just give us an idea about how good the building is performing in terms of not only energy, in terms of sustainability in general, including water, waste, and other parameters. This is a snapshot of the platform. You can see in the right-hand side how we were filling the energy data and the building characteristic, etc. So we're filling this in the platform, and then we get the score of the energy in the left-hand side, as you can see. And as you can see also, it gives the global average, the local average, and this is basically the benchmark we were speaking about before. Now, we will go ahead and show the difference between the process of the basic protocol and the intermediate and advanced protocol. So basically, it's almost the same process with some additional requirements. So we're just going to highlight it. I mean, it's beyond the scope of the webinar, honestly speaking, to go to the detail of the intermediate and advanced, because too much detail. I mean, it requires a course, not only a webinar or a seminar. But we're just going to highlight it. At least it's a good idea today if we can get a general understanding of this. Now, when we were collecting data, if you want to go in the intermediate and advanced, what you need more details about the building characteristic, the building information, especially if you do what's called calibrated simulation. So it would require much more data and measurements, etc. In the second step, that was related to the energy part, you would need, in the intermediate and advanced protocol, you would need some metering, because you're not just monitoring the energy use of the whole building, you're also monitoring the energy use of different end users, different systems, lighting, HVAC, pumps, etc. So, and also you would require smaller intervals of measurements. So you'd require like some sort of advanced metering, which is typically also, just to note down this, I mean, which is typically also linked with the building management system of the building. So this is the general practice for that. Now, after collecting the information in the advanced and intermediate, you don't just do basic calculations for EUI and ACI. You just actually do just much more detailed analysis, where you do EUI not only for the whole building, you do it also for end users for different loads. You generate the baseline of the building, you compare it, you do load factor analysis, which is, I mean, another topic. It can be monthly, daily, and annually. So basically, it gives an indication about the peak demand that is required in your facility within these time periods. Now, in the evaluating, in the benchmarking and rating step, here the difference between the advanced intermediate compared to the basic, you would need also to do self-reference benchmarking to verify savings. So typically, again, these protocols are combined with energy auditing, energy performance contracts, etc. So, so for that, you need to benchmark yourself over time. So you verify saving of the ECMs you have implemented in that building. So now, for those who ask about how we do the energy saving measures, I mean the verification and the IPMVP. So if you need to do energy saving verification, then you want to make sure that you know how to do a standard way, a professional way of energy measurement. So for that, you would require a good understanding of ASHRAE Guideline 14. I mean, that's very important. I've been in this market for a while, and I know people are not really following such standards. They think it can be just done by normal energy measurements, a power quality analyzer, they just hook it up and take readings. No, there are a standard operating procedure for that. There are standard testing procedure and methods and protocols, so we have to follow. So we are really encouraging ourselves, we're encouraging the market players as we would like to raise the quality of the services, that we should really follow such standards to provide high quality services for our clients. Now, another protocol, IPMVP protocol, which is again important to measure the energy saving verification. I mean, it has a lot of details. It's really beyond the scope of this webinar, and it's a bit complicated. I don't want to confuse people with. I'm sure there are a lot of experts in this webinar. They have already a good idea about it. But I mean, again, the main purpose of these two standards and protocol, IPMVP protocol, is to let you know about how to approach the energy saving verification, how to generate a baseline, how to compare the saving to verify the saving, how you adjust it based on temperature, the climate, the occupancy, etc. Yeah, so it's also very important resource to look at. Now we'll go to the last Q&A and discussion. I'm seeing actually a lot of hands was raised. Now I think it's time to go ahead and take these questions and discuss. Please feel free also to raise discussion points. I mean, we are here touching a relatively new topic to the market, and the market is really needing that for the next years, and things are still under development. So please feel free, especially people who are expert in this, people who are in academia, maybe they can go ahead and share some discussion points. Okay, so let's just go ahead and get one by one. Let's just handle the chat first. So I got 2 hands raised. Is it like for a question or by mistake again? Mr.
Hello?
Yes. Go ahead.
Hi. Yeah, how are you?
Alhamdulillah, thank you.
Yeah, yeah, it was very nice seminar, and I just want to know the table what you used there, showing that you share one example. So this table was from Energy Star portfolio, or it was from Met for Saudi, or it was where you were showing that your building was before like 200, and then you make it 170.
Yeah, that was actually our head office. It was a real example handled by us, and we calculated the AUI. And again, I just mentioned that how we developed this benchmarking chart. We did some efforts for that, but again, it's not official way of doing it. We are waiting for an official benchmarking database, as we said, in the Saudi, so it can help this this industry to grow more. Yes.
Hello, sir. Can you hear, sir?
Yes. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, sir. For the commercial building, normally the clients wants to do the energy audit for the common areas only.
Okay.
Have you got it, sir? So maybe the for example, the residential building, the tenants are paying their electricity bill. So what is the facility management or the property management wants us to do the common area energy auditing? We want to do only the audit in the common area and the chiller system.
Okay.
So how you find we are calculating the gross floor area, right? For calculating the UEA and all. So we are considering all the building consumption.
Okay, good question actually. Well, again, maybe it was the limitation of the webinar. I didn't show the whole details of the benchmarking databases. One of the very good markets that have very mature benchmarking databases is actually USA. They have a lot of tables that handles the same issue that you are talking about. Actually, it gives you the AUI sometimes based on occupancy, AUI based on production, AUI based on number of patients for hospitals, number of residents for hotels. So AUI database can be given in a lot of forms, okay, where you can apply it in such a case that you're saying you're just taking a part of the building, how you benchmark it. There are some ways. Again, it's really a big topic. And again, the more database you have, the more studies have been implemented, the more data you can compare yourself with.
Okay, sir.
So, Mr. Fayyaz, you have a question? Hello? Okay. How about Muhammad Monis Khalil?
Hello. Hi, sir. Can you hear me now?
Yes. Who is that? Sorry.
This is my name is Monis.
Yes, Monis. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Alhamdulillah. Yes, please.
So my question is, say for example, we have a very say for example, if we consider a 100 building portfolio, and you invite an ESCO for certain energy improvements or optimizations, which has a budget of say 40 million or 50 million dollars, paid to be paid back over say 4 or 5 years. And say even if you have a very advanced MNV setup by submetering and everything, so this information which is actually being gathered by these submeters is actually going to the ESCO cloud, right, which is a private cloud where the information is stored. So who actually say what measures do we have in place to make sure the data integrity of this information? Because say for example, if you have $100 million EPC contract, which needs which depends on the profit of the ESCO depends on the performance of its energy optimization measures.
Right.
So how do you actually make sure that this data will not get manipulated? Because any ESCO can manipulate this stored data on the cloud and say that we achieved 60% savings or 70% savings, but if you but in reality the savings might only be around 20-25%.
Right. Okay. Well, okay. It's actually it's a very broad question, but let me just try to handle it some way. Typically for large-scale energy auditing project, typically it can go with the energy performance contract scope of work, where you offer guaranteed saving, and the investor will not be the client himself.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
So yeah. Now, there are two scenarios. It's like ISCO company itself, maybe it has a good investment capability and they can go ahead and do it themselves.
Yeah.
Or they just have a third party. And typically it's a super ISCO, right?
Yeah.
Which is a national ISCO like Ittihad ISCO or Tarshid in Saudi Arabia.
Yes.
Now, for such kind of contracts, and I'm sure they have some Tarshid people, maybe they are joining us today. They are having those contracts that really secure the whole integrity part. I mean, one of the main thing that they have to follow IP. I mean, I know in Saudi Arabia they are following IPMVP protocol. So they have to follow the protocol. They have to do reporting in a certain way. There must be some supervision scope of work. So so by the end of the day, if there is a good supervision, good system already in place, good contract terms and conditions, I mean, most likely people will be in the safe side. If the client is not careful about this, or the investor will not be careful about this, yes, there is a chance of getting trapped.
Yeah. And have you ever come across any company using any blockchain technology to make sure this data integrity is intact? Because I mean, say if it's a very big EPC contract, then hourly data is obviously directly equal to money what you save. And if you lose this data, everything is gone.
Okay, so sorry, I'm not getting your question. Can you repeat?
I mean, have you actually come across anybody who's using blockchain technology to make sure the data integrity of such important contracts?
No, not really. Actually, I haven't seen any company that adopted the blockchain technology so far. No, I haven't seen such kind of technology to be adopted. Yeah.
Okay, so no problem. Thank you for the answer.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
So anybody else will have a question, and then we'll go to the text, the written questions. We just handled now the voice one. Okay, let's just go ahead now, then handle the written one. Okay, so okay, so somebody is asking about the table 3 that shown. Was it only for? Yes, it was for US buildings. It was not international. Yes. Any platform database for Gulf region? Not that I am aware of. I really wish somebody can give us a good news and good update. And I mean, this platform where everybody from different entities are gathering here, it can be really a good platform where we can discuss such things. We want to raise this industry and this market. So yeah, some effort needs to be spent, and it needs to be, by the way, also very good, very important thing to discuss here. I mean, it needs to be coming from unbiased organization. So typically, it comes from a governmental sector, non-profit organization. It cannot come like I'm seeing. I have been dealing with some BMS suppliers where they're saying our platform is doing benchmarking. Okay, that's good. It's a good initiative from them, but I mean, again, for such purpose, for energy saving verification and for benchmarking, it should be done by unbiased entity, not a commercial entity. Okay, we'll see another question. So ASHRAE 14 guidelines, actually it's available in ASHRAE bookstore. Yeah, unfortunately, because because of the copyright things, and we cannot just share it like that. So, but it is available in the bookstore of ASHRAE. The D2 for Okay, so Kamal, Inji Kamal. So from my understanding of the question, like you are saying, how to encourage investor for that? I mean, that's what I understood. I hope I understood it right. But anyway, yeah, if I mean, it requires really good efforts from the technical people, from the engineering team, and it will come the time that comes naturally. Such energy saving projects and sustainability projects will come bankable, will come justifiable and understood. It makes sense, it brings money. One of the things is that also, I mean, if you study if you understand the dynamics of the market, typically energy efficiency project is done through super ISCOs, national ISCO. So that maybe it's a challenge also for a private sector to be an investor. So typically, national company they go ahead and do the investment itself, even though it's only for governmental sector. They do it only for governmental buildings. For other kind of buildings, of course, you can integrate some other investors, and it makes sense. And I think it's just a matter of time. Yeah. Okay. So let's make sure if we have other raised hand. Yeah, I think we're good. Okay, so thank you everybody. Thank you for attending this webinar. I hope that you had benefited from the information we shared. And please, if you have any other further questions or clarification, feel free to send us an email at info@greener.com, or you can actually also reach us through this contact information. We're ready to support, we're ready to help. And yeah, you have a nice night. Thank you very much, everybody. Assalamu alaikum.